Hello, MGTOW. Hello, men. This is Howard Dare. Thanks for stopping by. So, I want to talk about intrasexual competition between women because it answers a lot of the questions and situations that MGTOW are dealing with. So, let me tell you what I'm talking about before I get into the details. Essentially, women are competing with other women for quality mates with which to reproduce. And one of the ways that they're doing this is by after they have secured their best shot, their highest status mate that they can acquire, they then start to discourage the other women from hooking up and mating with other men. And this makes perfect sense from an alpha, beta gaming theory algorithm. You're not just trying to optimize your chances of winning, you're trying to maximize your opponent's opportunities for losing. So you're not just trying to get, a positive score for you, you're trying to get a negative score for your opponent. Now, in a male world, as I stated it, this is open competition. We are competing with each other. There's no biological bottleneck between men. You could lose 90% of your male population and you could still repopulate your society, your culture, your planet within a single generation. But if you were to lose 90% of the women, you'd be, it just wouldn't work. So there's no point in the men covertly competing with each other in that way. The competition between men is largely like a sporting competition. It's open. We want to see the results. We have our achievements, we have our stats, we have our degrees, and that's it. There can be some interpersonal hostility, but it's rare, and it doesn't even make a lot of sense. The man is simply trying to make himself the best version of himself that he can be in order to have the best life as possible. But is that really what the women are doing between each other? You've got to know that it's not. And one of the ways that you can recognize this is simply by the fact that by the time most women reach their early to mid 30s, they really do want to stop competing and try to have a family. This level of open competition, which builds your merit-based society, that's not what they're into. But it is very much what the men are into. So by allowing the male sensibilities to govern your society and your culture, you end up building a very healthy, strong, ambitious, forward-moving, capable, healthy society, culture. You build families. But, and this seems to be true in all the civilizations, once you get to a certain level of male accomplishment, they start to turn it over to the women to run the show. And it may be that the women have always been running the show and we just don't recognize it. And the women start competing with each other for the men. And as I said, the darkest way in which they're doing this, or one of the darkest ways that they're doing this, is that once they have secured their genetic prodigy, to go into the future, they discourage the other women from doing the very same thing. So the women are discouraged from having children in their 20s when, they can't have children in their, late 30s, or it's very difficult and very risky. Well, that effectively ends that game, doesn't it? So men are stuck in this kind of war, this invisible, under the surface war between women, and they're the casualties. And so the men have turned away. They have gone MGTOW. They have no choice. I mean, would you like to play a rigged game? Here's a game, and the dealer wins all the time. The dealer knows your cards, and you don't know the dealer's cards. Would you like to sit down and play at that table? Because you're never going to win. So the male-female relationship is this situation where the woman is always going to win, and the man is never going to win. So the men have stopped playing. And as I said, this could be something that we see throughout all advanced civilizations. So you see this in the woke behavior, in the shunning and the rejection of any of the traditional roles. Now, before you accuse me of being some sort of a tradcon, no, I'm just supporting what's healthy and what works in the past. The reason why we have traditions and procedures is because they work. Not because it's oppressive or anything like that. And you can have some things that are not perfect, that are oppressive, and that certainly doesn't mean that your whole system is bad. In other words, your lifeboat might have a leak or two, but I wouldn't exactly throw away, I wouldn't get out of the lifeboat just yet, right? I'd try to fix and repair those problems. So this revolutionary, burn it all down attitude, again, it's a ploy. It's a ploy for people in power to acquire more power by discouraging people who are not in power by not even attempting to come into power, by convincing them that, the system is crooked and rigged and that they shouldn't even play. Now, in the case of the men and relationships with women, that actually happens to be the truth of the situation. And the men recognize this, and the men have adapted. That's what the male of the species does, It's constantly adapting. We say the men are expendable, and indeed they are, in almost all of the animal kingdom. The male part of that's because the males are the genetic variability. They introduce the new material. They are evolving much quicker. The female genetic line is set. And it could be that the female has an intimate instinctual understanding of this. So as a result of the way that the men compete with each other, we build this dynamic, merit-based, capable, healthy society because the men are competing openly and they're competing, for achievement and results. They're not trying to undercut each other. But in a female competition, where instinctually it's not for her status, herself, it's for a mate of high status who will then take on those risks of, physical competition and risk taking. So the women stepping forward, and saying the women are just like men, no, on a fundamental level, they're not. And this is also illustrated in the idea, that men fight to the death. In war situation, the men are fighting to the death because that's their genetic line. But the woman, she doesn't have to do that. She can have children with somebody else. And her loyalty is to her genetic line, not to her union with any particular man. And you can't particularly fault this, but the danger is that the modern man, being fed this myth of men and women are the same, starts to believe that. And the women, perhaps, even start to believe that. And yet instinctually, they know that it is their genetic line for which they fight. Now, this brings up a really interesting subject, the idea of pretending to care about something that you don't care about in order to wield power over other people. And, what that means is that this is the point in the video where everybody has to put on their COVID mask, right? Because we've got to be worried about, infecting each other with COVID on the computer, okay? And the reason why I say this is, because I just care so much about everybody. So go ahead, everybody, put on your masks at home and wear them, right? It's not about keeping people safe. It's about power. It's about control. It's about influence. It's about status. It's about this hidden female currency, right? It's absurd, like you're hearing this and, it's a joke. I'm joking around. And yet there's a part that's like, holy smokes, right? So yeah, that's what they're doing in many instances. They don't care about people getting COVID or not getting COVID. They care about being in charge. They care about using problems as an excuse to grab authority. Not that they are qualified to have that authority or to use that authority. They don't care about that. This is another symptom of our media age, right? What is it now that the woman is competing for? She's not. Is she still competing for a high status, high value man? What's she competing for now? Or is she competing for 10,000 views and likes on Instagram or on her dating app? And does she care about that biologically? On some level, no doubt she does. Or does she care about that as a status symbol to show to other women? And where does the good man fit in this situation? Because he can be a high earner, he can be emotionally available, he can be physically impressive, genetically strong, he can fulfill all the roles that a strong man is supposed to fulfill. And if he does not fulfill her status, attention, needs from the other women, of what value is he to her? This is why we talk about the loyalty of women, right? No, they're not loyal. It doesn't seem like they're loyal to the individual man or even to the family, right? They're not. They're loyal to their individual genetic line. And that does not include any one particular man. Any one particular man is replaceable. Now, the men know this. You've got to know this. On a biological level, you know this. But this social programming that the women have introduced, that men and women are the same, it's even screwed up the men on that level, right? There's no great danger of telling women that men and women are the same, because good luck, right? Good luck in that boxing match. Good luck in that competition. They're not. But what about telling that to a young man? What, is there some sort of danger there? Of course there is. You've just made his entire masculine nature, his entire healthy biology toxic. That's what's going on. And it's being done by women usually past their childbearing years, onto women within their childbearing years, against just decent, healthy, honorable, good men. And this is the suffering you see. This is the suffering we experience, the mental anguish, the cognitive dissonance, right? How could our situation work like this? How could it have come into existence if this is the way it works? And the answer is it could not. And it will not. It will cease to exist. And that's what we're witnessing and experiencing. And the frustration we feel is that naturally we know that there is a proper order to these things. The person with the best vision shall lead the group, the tribe, right? Let's put him out in front, or her. The person with the best aim, let's give them that projectile weapon, right? We're not going to share it around. The biggest and the strongest, let's give them some heavy clubs. Anyway, the division of labor, okay, based on viability, functionality to get the job done. This is the male way. Not about feelings, not about attention. Let's pick the best man for the job. Okay, this is not the female way. Female way is let's pick the best job for the person. Doesn't matter if they're qualified. None of that matters. What matters is that they're part of the group, that they submit, So the girls cut their hair short and put on their facial piercings and their facial tattoos and declare themselves trans. And the older women are like, yeah, that's great. Keep doing that. Let me give you a job. And the men are wondering, what the hell is going on here? Right? The man is just trying to build himself up and have a good life. And he's wondering, why does she hate me? Why are they acting like this? That's what's going on. Hell, they'll put you in jail. Trust me. So fewer and fewer of male sexual, secondary sexual characteristics are on display. I'm sorry, but it's an insane situation. And I think that this offers a little bit of insight as to what's generating it. I'm going to point to some content by Dr. Danny, a woman who's been talking about this particular set of ideas, intrasexual female competition and its effect on men. But I'm very curious what you guys, MGTOW, think about this. So please let me know in the comment section below. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, donate, okay? Because on Cash App, find my Cash App donation link, click on it, and do what you can for the Howard Dare channel. I would really appreciate it. It's important because the expression of these types of ideas in a female world are shut down, are excluded, are canceled. And, that is their nature. That is how they compete. And without your support, I just fall by the wayside, as do most of the men. So please support me over there on Cash App. Do what you can. I would really appreciate it. And join me again, Howard Dare, as I plan to have more content for you. Thank you, MGTOW.